share my screen. Present, which is right here. Well, thank you guys for joining The Secret to Be the Bank. How to win with private money. No tenants, toilets, or trash. Guys, what I'm going to talk about tonight is one of the most exciting areas of real estate opportunity right now, I believe. But before I get into that, I'd like to talk a little bit about who I am. If you guys don't know me, the folks that are on this call I happen to know quite well, which I'm super thrilled to have them with me. But just to give you a little bit of an overview about my background, I've actually got about a 30-ish year career in real estate, also practiced law, commercial landlord tenant, and various different real estate roles, including some mom and pop real estate all the way through a REIT. So I've worked for a REIT and I've worked for mom and pops. So real estate is in my DNA, and I love everything about it. But what I would like to talk about today, and why I'm so excited about this topic, is based on that background. I don't know that I've seen anything that's got quite the profile that this does. And to give you a little bit of backdrop about why this is so passionate about this. My dad drove a truck over the road, and my mom was a hairdresser. Really blue collar background. Really had no idea. Like you see, this, the movie Wall Street. It's like, oh wow, these Wall Street guys, they're pretty smart. Wow, that's awesome. And so I used to idolize them. And so growing up and like getting into high school, and going and watching these kind of movies, and then like I really would like to know, how did these guys be successful? So I choose a degree in economics eventually, and really kept going on the real estate idea. I really got passionate about it because my friend's dad had some rental houses, and we helped with some turns and stuff like that. So ever since then, I've been really passionate about how do we find out how to be wealthy in real estate, and that's why we're here today to talk about one of the biggest things I discovered along the way. Rich people think differently. Can we agree that that's probably true? Is just like they think differently. That's why they're rich, right? And so one of the filters, I guess I would say, that I think is common among the very successful investors, they like asymmetric risk. And so what is asymmetric risk? Essentially, you want to take a small bet with a big upside, or you want to make sure that your bets you're taking don't have excessive risk associated with them. So essentially, you want to stack the deck in your favor, and you only want to take bets where you can look at the probabilities and say, I'm going to have a much bigger chance of having a high upside, right? And so essentially, you can use that filter in moving forward. Like, if is this risk asymmetric? And so you can ask yourself anytime somebody presents an investment deal to you, is the risk asymmetric here? And that question alone, I can promise you, will put you in a rare category of investors. I just don't see that very often in the real estate world. It's just not a common conversation. And if you ask yourself, is the risk asymmetric here? That's what I think is one master key that you can take from today. And what is the single best risk reward opportunity right now? And for us, we believe it is hard money loans, and specifically, we believe that spec home loans are really exceptional. And why we think they're so good right now and moving forward is there's a 1 million to 3 million household shortage of houses. The inventory, 2008 comes along, wipes out a ton of developers, and that product just never caught up. And so that's why we think there's an incredible market asymmetry. Now, this is interesting too. Right now, we do have the counterbalance, which is, of course, the Federal Reserve, and the rate increase is what we've seen. But we do believe that we're pretty close to the top on the Federal Reserve, and right now, we think it's a good time to be risk on. Okay, and so moving forward, what are the components of hard money loans? And that's what we're going to break down now. So we're going to talk about what are they and what are they like. Well, there's fast funding and approvals. Hard money lenders operate outside traditional banking regulations. And that's another thing we like about right now too. Um, the banks are under duress a little bit from the rate hikes, and it's really kind of put them on their heels. And so they're really being much more conservative. They're pulling back, and we think this is the time to while they're pulling back, hop in and take more share. Um, Also, hard money loans, we focus more on the property, unlike a traditional loan where you're much more concerned about the person. You don't ignore the person in the hard money loan space, but you just are much more concerned about the collateral. And as we talked about before, there's a really high floor right now, we believe, with hard money. We think the collateral floor is so high. We also do have a kind of a unique situation where we can be more negotiable. Meaning it you know it literally it's up to your imagination what you want to do, and there's no limits. You just have to be prudent and make good choices when it goes back to the risk thing. But for sure, there's a lot of flexibility on how you do these loans. Again, back to the same prior point. Flexible loan terms, and so you can customize it pretty much how you'd like to see that operate. We really like this for diversification purposes. We think this is a great um, way to help diversify your portfolio. And we're going to talk a little bit here a little bit about who this is good for and who I don't think should do it, or why you may not want to do it. And we'll talk about that so you have an idea of what that looks like. Also, we can feel out a niche market. Like for us, we really like the spec home loan space, and that's what we're looking to really focus our efforts on here. And so that's a prime example of how we can fit into a niche area. All right, so we're now at two forks in the road. It's not ideal for everyone, and I want to talk just real briefly about that. It really isn't great for it's suboptimal really for high income earners. It doesn't do a lot for them. It is a good investment, but it doesn't help their tax situation that they usually have. And so hard money loans aren't necessarily a great place for them. And then the caveat, which I will add to that, is who is it great for? Now, even if you have a high income, but you have retirement money from an old retirement account that you had just sitting out there. It's just sitting there gyrating with the stock market. We think this is the ultimate place to put these kind of loans in self-directing your IRA or 401k. Another thing, for sure, we don't want to forget to ask. If you guys have not talked about real estate professional status, please ask us about it. If you're a high income earner, there's some incredible results. That's outside of the scope of what we're talking about today, but I did want to leave that in there and invite you to reach out to us and talk about that. And so that's the broad overview, guys. And now I'm open for questions here. It looks like we got to cut a couple questions from Kay. Yeah, actually, Kay, we've actually seen the supply chain, and she asked funding lack of construction materials and slowing the permitting process. The markets we're in, we don't see that issue. We're primarily in Colorado and Kansas City and Texas, and so those markets, we just don't see really terrible permitting processes where we're at. And vetting the risk of who we lend to. Now, this is an excellent question, and thank you, Kay, for asking that one. We are pretty stringent on vetting. We don't lend to someone who's never done a deal. That's just the one thing we don't do. If they want to do a spec home loan with us, they really have to have had their own spec home. Now, what they can do, and we would encourage this, is bring on a joint venture partner that does have the resume. We would work with them on that circumstance. But that's pretty much how we just go on based on track record on that one. It's the old tried and true. We'll see your track record, and we're much more confident once we have and more aggressive. Frankly, we can be more aggressive in that case if we have a good track record. Um, and are there a reduced number of tradespersons available, and what areas are you focusing? Yeah, Kay, I think that's a great question. I think it does look to be a threat moving forward. I think it's just one of those things we're going to have to navigate. And it may be that where the construction materials, it may be prefab or other construction innovations to help that problem. But I agree that is a concern in the industry for sure. And thank you for asking that when we do have to really be careful with that. And then the areas we are focused on lending, we like Colorado, Kansas City, and Texas. There's a couple markets in Texas we really like. That's pretty much our backyard in terms of where we feel comfortable lending. We just know those markets real well, and so that's currently where we're limited lending in. All right, go ahead and stop the share here. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Any questions? Sean, do you have any questions about the process or?
No, that was good.
Thank you. Okay, that's another great question. Average hard money loan, I think we're seeing anywhere from 10 to 13, depending on the lender. We're somewhere around 11 for our spec home builds right now. We think that's a pretty good comfort place. Much more than that, it becomes a little harder for the builder to say yes. And then typically we structure it for a 1 year deal. Hopefully they can be done in the year. If it's a little bit bigger project, we might give them an opportunity to extend for 6 months, but that's typically a very short term, and that's why I think it's such a great risk reward. It's a nice high income, a nice high return, and it's a short duration, which is kind of unusual. Usually, high return usually means you have to be in for the long haul, and that's one of the things I like about this. And right now, this is we have two options right now currently. Kay, thank you for that. That's another great question. We are actually originating a loan separately currently, and we are working on building out our fund as we speak. So right now, it is lending separately to each individual investor. There's no minimums currently. That we want to make sure that it's a good fit for the lender that joins with us, and that's one of the great questions too that I hear about this. And it's like, can't I do this on my own? Absolutely. It's not. I hate to say it, guys. It's not the most challenging thing in the world, but one thing that we do add value in is we do have a tremendous Rolodex of partners to work with, and that's how we add value. Also, as a benefit to the investor that partners with us, we we do not charge the investor money. The how we make money in this is the origination points, and that's how we are currently structured. Oh, and spec home. That's a great question, and thank you for that feedback. It's like, what in the world does he mean by spec? I am terrible about that, Kay. Thank you. Spec home is building on speculation, meaning we believe that there's going to be a market for this home when we're gone. And so instead of a normal process or more traditional, is I go hire a builder, or they build my house to my custom to my standard, and that's the traditional design build model. Spec home is just saying, hey, we think this is going to be a good location. We like the market. It'll sell. And the benefit to the builder is they don't have to I've had it explained to me that there's a lot less hassle in terms of the construction process for the builder. So that's why the builders are attracted to the spec home space. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. We are going to follow on with a video for you. We interviewed one of our partners, and what we're going to do also, we're going to send out this video, okay? And thank you for signing up. And for anybody who signed up, we're going to send out this video, and we're going to send out an interview from one of our partners in Texas that has a pretty good background and kind of explains more in depth about the process as well. And we'll send that out along with this video. Thank you guys for joining tonight.